All right, so good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this week's Weekly Wave. This week's call will be a little bit shorter than the last two. Many of the updates that we have for you are going to be slight repeats of previous weeks. So going straight into that, for updates, we still have some districts not sending the Wave 2021 enrollments. We've reached out to superintendents. We'll be sending out another follow-up email this week to the remaining districts who have not sent 2021 enrollments. Obviously, if you're not sending 2020 enrollments by now and school has started, there will be issues with you being able to see information in Edplan. And once reporting starts to kick off, that'll also be a problem because you will not see any students. We did update the enrollment and attendance FAQ guidance last week based off of some of the questions that we got in that call. So if you guys would like to take a look at that, the link is still the same, but if you don't have that, it is under our documents and guidance. I'm sure one of my lovely coworkers will put that link in the chat while I'm speaking. But again, those FAQs have been updated as of August 13th. So if you see a question in there or you have a question that hasn't been answered either through the guidance itself or in the FAQ document, please reach out to us. Anything else that we could add to the document, we will be happy to do so. So keep the questions coming as you think them up. But again, just take a look at the FAQs just to make sure that a question that you may have for us hasn't already been answered. All right, as for reminders, for the STN wizard, I know the wave is down right now, but once the wave is back up, for the STN wizard, make sure that you are reviewing your matches. If you are noticing that a student appears in the STN wizard, but you know they had an STN previously, either from a different school, or you have some sort of documentation that says the student had an STN previously, and that STN is not showing in the STN wizard, please reach out to us. We do have methods to get those students' records associated with their historical STN. So again, it is our expectation that any student that has already been enrolled in an Oklahoma public school keeps their STN number that they previously had. And we know that there are some exceptions to that rule, say a court order or an adoption that warrants them needing to have a new state testing number. But generally speaking, each student, if they've already been assigned an STN, should keep that STN. And in the STN wizard, at least at this moment in time, the name, birthday, gender, etc. information that does show on that wizard will always be the first piece of information that was sent to the wave. We are making updates to the STN wizard, but for right now, if as you're going through and looking at the students that are appearing there, just remember that all of their demographic information is going to show up as it was originally sent to us, regardless if that information was inputted correctly the first time or not. We will still get your updates as you're making them, but the STN wizard will always show the first piece of information that we have received for a student. There is a little flow chart on our documents and guides website that I would highly recommend you sharing with your attendance registrars or even just yourself, if that is one of your job duties, to make sure that you know what piece of information we are currently using to assign an STN. It'll break it down to let you know which students will automatically go into the STN wizard and which students will say get automatically assigned a new STN, or if they will keep their historical STN number. Moving on to the ownership wizard. This one's pretty self-explanatory. If you're seeing a student on this list, that means that there are two districts or sites or more claiming that they have a student enrolled at the same time. So for those situations, you'll want to reach out to the other district or site and figure out which school will be instructing that particular student. Now, if you have conflicts with yourself, meaning you have conflicts within the district or with the same site, please reach out to us. We are monitoring those types of situations and trying to clean them up beforehand. But if we are missing something and you're still seeing duplicate students on there, just reach out to us. We'll go in and clear that ownership conflict up. Those situations typically happen because a student information system will send us one enrollment, say at the beginning of the year. Something happens in the student information system that would warrant a new record being created and sent to us rather than, say, updating the existing one. And what that does is now we have two enrollment records for the same student, one that's still being sent to the state when we request for enrollment records, and one that is just kind of hanging out in our system. So what we can do for those situations is just clear out the one that, or mark inactive the one that is no longer being sent to the state when we request for enrollment records. And for our last reminder, for Edplan, we have gotten a couple of questions about where are my students. There are a couple of different reasons why a student may not show in Edplan. I know that the Special Education Office for OSDE has sent out some guidance about certain scenarios that could warrant a student not popping up in Edplan. Generally speaking, once a student pops up in the Waves My Data system, it'll take anywhere between 24 and 72 hours for that student to appear in Edplan. But if you do have any school-related errors or a student is, say, missing an STN number, that will delay the exchange of data between the Wave and Edplan. So make sure once the Wave is back up, you're taking a look at your data validation issues to make sure that if there are any, you're getting those taken care of and addressed or updated, whatever the error or warning is, so that once we package up all the data to send to Edplan, your district's information will be included. Generally speaking, right now, the exchanges with Edplan are happening pretty frequently. So as long as you're getting us your enrollment records within, between midnight and say 4 p.m. within a day, they should pop up exactly where they should be in order for us to get that information over to Edplan. So just make sure you're taking a look at your data validation errors, your STN wizard, and making sure that you're getting those issues corrected so we can properly give Edplan that updated enrollment roster. All right, so last reminder, all of the guidance that we've mentioned in past calls have been uploaded to the Student Information Systems Documents and Guides section of our website. We send screenshots right now, hopefully, if you are watching this video. So right now, this is a slightly outdated picture. The slides for today's call are actually already on the website. And once the video has been processed and uploaded to YouTube, the playlist will be updated with that. So you can click on the video and see today's call, hopefully in the next day or two. So with that, I'm going to actually let Aaron speak up here and walk you guys through the flowchart that he made that'll hopefully help you guys out with those grade level is invalid errors in the data validation wizard.
Thanks. So I know we have a lot of confusion regarding this validation, and it seems like these are well received, so we're continuing to make them. But in this case, this is for the, right now it is grade level is invalid, or grade level does not align with site. And it's a little confusing because it seems like it should just be one way and comparing to the school of enrollment, but there's a little bit more that goes into it. But for this specific flowchart, you're going to start in the top left. We're going to start with the student and their student school enrollment. And we're actually going to branch to the right first. And does the school of membership exist? Because there's two elements within the student school enrollment that will determine where the student is. We've got student and a school of membership and their school of enrollment. The school of membership and the school of enrollment are typically used in case you are enrolling the student in a site that's not like an accredited site. So if you've got a kind of a made up local virtual site, but the student is actually attached to your high school, the school of enrollment would be that made up virtual site, and then the school of membership would be the actual accredited high school. But back to the flow chart, does school of membership exist? If it does, you'll continue downwards. If it does not, you're immediately going to use the school of enrollment. On to the next question down after the yes, is school of membership an accredited site? So if that school of membership is an accredited site, you'll end up using the school of membership. However, if it is not, you'll go back and use the school of enrollment. And what those determine, whichever one you use, what that determines is the site accredited high grade and the site accredited low grade for this validation. And so you will have to have the student in a grade that is between those. So if we go back to the left and branch downwards, so we will grab the student grade from the student school enrollment, and we'll ask the question, is the student's grade between the site accredited high and low grades? If it is, it'll pass the validation. And that just means that the student is in a grade that the accredited site serves. However, if the student is not in a grade that is between those high and low grades, the validation will fail. And typically the thing that we're running into the most, where the most confusion is which site it's being compared to. And that's that upper portion of this flow chart. So choosing between the school of enrollment or the school of membership and which one is being validated towards is usually where the confusion is. Because for instance, sometimes you'll have an online virtual kind of made up site that serves your whole district. However, it may actually only be connected to your high school. So if you have a middle schooler that enrolls in that virtual site, and it's pointing to, the school membership is pointing to that high school, if they're, for instance, a seventh grader, that site only serves 9th through 12th graders, that will fail this validation because 7th grade isn't between the high and low grade for that high school of 9 to 12.
So you're saying,
hopefully it makes it a little bit more clear.
So you're saying, Aaron, that if I have my whole school going to virtual school and I've set up a site for that virtual school that is not an accredited site, it's just I'm going to flow it through my accredited sites on the back end. I'm going to need to set up more than one to make sure they're attached to the elementary level, to the middle school level, and to the high school level, so that they can flow through the right site, so that everybody is attached to the proper grade levels.
Right, exactly. To avoid conflicts in the easiest way, that is what would be probably the most appropriate way to approach virtual sites across a whole district.
Right. Thank you, Aaron. The school of membership is also what tells us which school is going to receive funding for that student. So it's very important for that school of membership to be correct. Hopefully, as Aaron said.
Question for Aaron.
Yeah.
This is Tara Nalrino. Your student grade flow chart doesn't take into consideration out-of-home placement, because that becomes their grade level. It trumps their grade level on all reporting. So when you have
we will still use the school of membership.
Mm-hmm.
We will still take into account OHP on reporting like we always have. That'll be fine.
So now if we have a detention center and we run all the kids through, say, the high school, now we've got to set up an elementary detention center, a middle school detention center, or we're in grade centers, so I have to do a 2-grade detention center all the way up, like what you were talking about.
You shouldn't need to build out everything from scratch. For you at least, it should be, business is normal.
Okay, so set the school of membership per kid to the appropriate grade level site, regardless how I send the kids through to the wave.
Right.
Okay.
So exactly, to follow up on that, you wouldn't necessarily have to set up a virtual site or a detention site for and point it to every single of your existing accredited sites or ones that have, you know, a grade level zone. Some student information systems are different. So you may be able to easily just set the membership, the school of membership for students individually. And if you are, fantastic, you'll be able to just set up like one detention site, just like you have, or one virtual site, and be able to individually point those students to the appropriate school of membership. However, some student information systems may only point to the school of membership based on the whole site. So if you've got a virtual site that's pointing to the high school, maybe every single student within that high school, that virtual high school, is pointed to the actual high school. So it'll be dependent upon your student information system and whether or not you do need to set up, you know, multiple detention or virtual sites, or if you can just set up one and like you have, be able to point each student individually.
So to wrap things up, this is not new for most of you who've been joining our calls every week, but for our new attendees, we do have a Microsoft Teams channel that we use to collaborate with districts. Right now it's our office, myself, Erin, Eric, and Morningstar. We can answer any questions that you guys may have that might not warrant an email. Some of the state aid staff is also on that team. So between all of us, should hopefully be able to answer most of the questions that you guys are asking through the general channel. If you had a question about, say, a specific student or anything like that, we could also use this Microsoft Teams channel to communicate one-on-one. You guys can send us a chat or even an email directly through Microsoft Teams. It'll come directly to us, or if you would like to continue to use our student information system or student data info email address, we'll most likely just reply to you through there if you were to email us. But again, if you wanted to just quickly get communication and feedback from us, Microsoft Teams is going to be your best bet. We do put out any notices that we would typically put on the WAVE homepage in this chat or in this Microsoft Teams channel, so you can get minute by minute updates from us as they occur. So again, if you have any questions, our email address is here on the screen, and our documents and guides website link is also here. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here.